Well, I'm here at Andark Diving, as you see, at the top of the Hamble River by the bridge on the A27. The traffic's thundering past, and I'm here to meet Andy Goddard. Now, this is the 50th anniversary of Andark Diving, and Andy is a remarkable man with a tale to tell. He's dug out a great big lake up the top there, which is doing great work, and I'm going to go up there and see if I can have a chat with him. So, follow me up. Andy,
Tom.
for me as a sailor who knows really nothing about diving apart from how to stick a snorkel in my mouth and go and have a look at my anchor in the Caribbean, what I find when I think about Andark is a huge stand in the Southampton Boat Show.
Yeah.
And then I come up here and I see all this. It's a blooming empire you've got. How did that happen, Andy? You're a diver. How did it start?
Honestly, Tom, I do not know. The last 50 years have gone by in a flash. I guess you would say it started, my love of diving started when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, influenced massively by a friend of mine, John Duffy. We went to the same school. From the age of about 5, he kept going on about diving and master diving. We were both in the Sea Scouts, and someone in Hamble Sea Scouts organised a try-a-dive. Now that is really unheard of going back into the late 1960s.
What's that again?
A try-scuba.
Right, okay.
Trying the kit, and they did it for a bunch of young Sea Scouts. Even in those days we were using not the modern diving kit, but what's called twin hose, where you have a bit like Cousteau, who was my hero. And he influenced me massively, and putting in the mouthpiece, putting my head in the water and go, shall I breathe? Shall I breathe? I'm underwater. What's going to happen if I breathe in? Taking that first breath and suddenly the freedom of being in this utterly different world. And that captivated me, and that's what got me going. And anyway, so basically I joined the Old Ship Sub-Aqua Club, and we did diving. That's where I got trained properly, yes, and we dived along the south coast, and that's what really got me into diving. And I happened to be reading my diving magazine, and it said, little advert, turn your sport into a rewarding and valuable career. So I went to professional diving school down in Cornwall, ProDive. It was the early 1975 by then. I was 19 years old. I'd been professional diving as an amateur, if you like, doing various jobs around the river and a few in just inspecting small ships and stuff like that.
Is that sort of casual work and you get a few bob and...
Correct, it was in those days. And I didn't really, expect to turn that into my career, but ended up doing a 12-week course to learn all about the professional kit and how we do things properly. And then from there, went straight up to Aberdeen, right? So you can imagine, straight up to Aberdeen, straight onto a North Sea supply boat, and out to a derrick barge, the DB-22. And we were working, we eventually were worked out in the Ecofisk field, and we were trying to install Piper Alpha. And my claim to fame is I was the first diver to touch Piper Alpha, which was the first production platform in the North Sea to operate, and trying to do lots of different jobs on that structure. The method of diving previously to that, we were doing what we call bounce diving. Now, this is where, I'll do a bit of diving physics here.
All right.
You've got to imagine your body is a sponge, okay? So you've got a sponge and a bucket of water. What happens is when we go diving, our bodies absorb more and more of the gas that we're breathing. The oxygen we use and convert some of it to carbon dioxide, but the nitrogen, the majority of the air that you're breathing, which is 80% nitrogen, roughly 20% oxygen and a few other bits of gas.
Yeah.
Now, as you go down deeper, what happens is your body very quickly absorbs more and more and more of that nitrogen in a liquid form. That's the best way of explaining it. Right? If you then start to come back up, unfortunately, even though you went, for example, down, let's say we go down to 500 feet deep, we're in a diving bell, and we go down like this at 1 atmosphere, because the diving bell has got an external hatch and an internal hatch. So when we start the dive, the external hatch is closed. So when we put the bell in the water pressure seals it.
Yeah.
So we go all the way to the bottom. We've got lights on the bell because it's pitch black down there. Turn the lights on and you can see what you're working on. Normally it was around the wellhead. Yep. So what then happens is that one of us gets kitted up. There's 2 sets of gear in that bell, but one is the diver, one is the tender to tend the diver, his or her umbilical, because we're not scubaing. We've got a diving helmet or full face mask on and an umbilical cord. We call it.
This is not
umbilical.
scuba diving, is it?
This is not scuba diving. And down the line comes your breathing gas. Now I say gas because if we were to breathe air at that depth, it has a narcotic effect on us. It's narcosis, nitrogen narcosis. And at that depth, it's a real issue. I mean, a real issue. It's like being drunk underwater. You simply can't do any meaningful work. So we replace the nitrogen with a very, very light gas called helium.
Yes.
Now, helium is great because you don't get the narcotic effect. However, it does distort your voice and it makes it a very high-pitched voice and sometimes very difficult to understand. So there is a communication issue with that. Let's say we're going to now go out and do our little job. What we then do is the internal hatch is open. We've got 2 pressure valves in the bell. We open, they're called blowdown valves, so they allow gas into the bell. When the pressure on the inside equals the pressure on the outside, because we've undogged our external hatch, when the pressure's equalised, the weight of the hatch will fall away and the diver can lock out, we call it, go out of the bell.
So the gas is coming from the surface into the bell.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the diver does a job. Now, how long have you got? From 500 feet, if you had about 20 minutes, it would be about between 25 and 30 hours of decompression. It's a long time. So you can't do a lot of meaningful work. That's where the term saturation diving comes in. Because your sponge now, put it back in, squeeze it a few times, leave it in there. It's full of water, isn't it? It's saturated with water. Now, whether you left that sponge in there for an hour or a day or a week or a month, the time taken once it's saturated to get the water out the sponge or to get the gas out of your body is the same. So at 500 feet, once you are saturated with gas, it means you can work for hours at a time, but when you then come to decompress, right, the time is about 5 days. So 5 days. So how the hell are you going to spend 5 days in the water? Well, you don't, because the bell is a taxi. Do you remember I said it had 2 hatches?
Yes.
So you've done your dive shift.
Yeah.
In my days, they were very long shifts. The longest I ever did is 16 hours. That's illegal now. Quite rightly, you can't do that, right? It's between 6 and 8 hours.
That's
maximum.
in the water?
In the water.
With your tool bag doing your job?
We were coming back to the bell, yes.
Yeah.
But basically, yes. So you come back to the bell, close the inside hatch. Yeah.
You're in the bell.
Correct.
Yeah.
Close the inside hatch.
Yeah.
Both divers are in the bell. All you do is put a tiny bit more gas in to make sure it's sealed.
Yes.
And then you lift the bell to the surface and it gets locked onto a series of chambers, and they're your living accommodation. And that's how saturation diving works. So that's what I ended up doing, saturation diving.
What do you do when you're in the decompression house?
Funny enough, most of the time, a lot of the time, you can be really very tired and shattered. But you can lock food, obviously, and water and everything you need, and there's a shower in there. In my day, even I couldn't stand up in some of the chambers, and I'm small, and that's an advantage.
It must be
for a diver.
Be no good for me, would it?
No.
Well, all that's fascinating, Andy. We've got to move on, and we'll be here all day. Look, we got ourselves a cup of coffee.
Yes.
How did you progress or move sideways, however you want to put it, from this deep sea diving to starting Andark?
I got a contract locally at the old Marchwood power station, actually working for another diving company. But they never saw the management or anyone from that diving company. And in the end, the manager there said to me, we've got another job coming up, we'd like you to do it. And I said, oh yeah, no problem, I'm sure I'll be available. I'll check with the company. And they said, no, we want you to do it. I went, oh. And really, having had the company, we formed the company Andark, which is actually a combination of my name, Andy, and my brother, Mark, who's not in diving, but who was in motor racing, starting his career. And I thought it was a good way of perhaps helping him. And do you know how we came up with the name Andark? Because
No,
I'd like
it's
to
a
say
great
it was
name.
me. I'd like to say it was me, but we were sat at not so far from here in the Ship Inn with a group of mates and a good friend of mine who was sadly no longer with us, but he was a great marketeer. And he said to me, well, what are you going to call this company then? I went, well, Southampton Diving Services. He said, no. You've got to think ahead, yeah? Because you might not always be doing that. And you want something in the A of the alphabet. Because pre-computer, when you go to get your bills paid, the accountant picks their A4 lever arch up, and where do they start? At A.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. I said, Andy's Diving Services. No, that's no good. It's got to be short. And eventually I said, Andmark. And my brother went, Andark. And everyone went, oh, that sounds good. Anyone for another drink? And that's how, that's Andark.
Isn't that great? And now it's 50 years old and you've got all this.
Old. Then we started commercial diving. In my background, I'm a commercial diver.
Yeah.
So we developed that side of it. And I thought, God, this is
So
great.
you were supplying divers and sort of brokering jobs?
Mainly me going on the jobs as well as a small company, but employing divers, growing the business. And then came the early 1980s and that terrible recession.
Yeah.
And we went from having lots of work to no work. So we started teaching, and then people said, well, where do I get a mask or a fins? I borrowed 500 quid in 1980, I think it was, for some stock in the shop.
Yes.
And now look what's happened.
Yes.
That's how Andark started. And then I got married in 1980 to my dear wife, Stephanie. She's a sailor. And that's how Andark got into sailing clothing. And we diversified away from diving. No, not away from diving, but into the sailing water sports market.
Yeah, just broadened the base.
And without her, Andark wouldn't be what it is today.
See, so
without a doubt.
That's how it happened. So this
how
great
it
big boat show stand I see, and this shop down here where you can buy everything for sailing and all the rest of it. It's
It takes about at least a week to build a boat show stand. The second one, I think it was 1980. I'm sure it was 1980. Well, it was. Yeah. The stand was 3 meters by 2 meters, and it took me a week to make that. Don't ask, right? I did it with some doors from the dump as the backdrop. I think Stephanie wallpapered them. Wallpaper table for a trestle table as our counter. That was our first Southampton boat show. And now look.
Yeah.
But you've got to get out there.
Getting back to Andark.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've got the whole thing in place now, and suddenly you've got this pool here where you can do anything really.
Well,
you can do your,
Yeah.
you can do your sea survival courses and everything in the swimming pool that you've got
and
back at the centre.
correct, and our basic training.
Yes.
Yeah, all the diving training.
Yeah.
But for example, if you're learning to dive to go on holiday,
Yeah.
doing a PADI open water course, that's the level at which most people want to aim to get to.
Yeah.
Okay, you do a couple of days in the pool,
Yeah.
and then you come up here and we do 2 days up at our training lake. Now, the lake is 7 meters deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about, in volume, it's about 1.5 Olympic pools in volume.
Uh-huh.
We built this needs must. It took about 5 years from thinking about it to building it. And diving has been gone through some difficult times recently, over the last 10 years or so. But as we opened it, people started wanting to open water swim. So our biggest customer base here are open water swimmers. This is borehole water, it's regularly tested, so it's nice and clean. So, you know, it's a mixed use facility.
Yeah.
We get used for fun events, life raft events here, lots of open water swimming. We've got the lecture room here, you know, the classroom, yoga, lots of activities, which is lovely because it is nice, and you don't expect to find something like this, even a little campsite we've got here now.
You don't. It's remarkable. But listen, what's
Yeah.
so special about diving? Can you
Probably
encapsulate that?
Yeah, probably the same feelings that you get when you're out of sight of land. It's a completely different world. Do you know, in there, right, you might come across a sturgeon that, I'm not joking, is as big as one of these tables. It's nearly, well, it's a metre, about 1.4 metres, this sturgeon.
What, in there?
Yeah, we've got a big sturgeon.
Swimming around?
Yeah.
You're
we've
kidding?
got 2 and we've got 7 grass carp. Big fish, lovely fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you wouldn't expect that.
No, you wouldn't.
When you're swimming, they're afraid of you. They won't come near you.
No, I bet they won't.
You know, and they don't bite. They
That's
they
a
help,
relief.
they help clean the water up. If you go into the sea, can I just say, one of the most fascinating dives I've ever done
Yeah.
was in the early 1980s off of Bournemouth Beach. We used to take our divers down there on a Sunday dive. I took this young lad off the beach, and we were going in probably down to about 6 meters. It was flat sand. It was the last dive of the day. It was in August, and I'm sort of looking at the seabed. I'm looking at him. I look up, and it's like someone punching me in the face. I go, what is that? And out the blue, because it was crystal clear that day, and it was very calm, all I could see were these white discs. And they were jellyfish, big jellyfish, coming, literally. And I tapped him, he was looking at me, I tapped him on his shoulder and went, look, and he nearly leapt out the water. And between us, we just watched as these things gently drifted in, huge jellyfish. And these jellyfish are like a stinging nettle sting if you get to the back of them. They're not like a man-of-war, Portuguese man-of-war, with very long...
Not going to kill you, but
tender.
just not very nice.
No, but they're fine, and you can gently just push them, right? And we stood off them and watched for probably about 25 minutes. And they came in to within, I don't know, probably about 50 metres of the beach line and just stopped. Yeah? Now there we are. That was wholly unexpected. What a fantastic thing to see, you know. And that was in only a few metres of water.
Yeah.
There we go. That's what I'm saying. How that is a unique experience. And the other thing I would say to anyone that owns a boat, and if you're a diver as well and you've got a bit of dive kit on your boat and you anchor up and you're going to go for a little dive, you probably are going and seeing that seabed as a human for the first time.
One thing has really struck me about this. You've talked about another world,
Yeah,
and that's a magical thing to me. You told us that when you were a novice, a little boy, and you were given some gear and you had to put your head underwater,
yeah,
and it was a magical moment for you.
yeah.
And when I asked you about what was in it for somebody coming into the game, you told me the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. That's like the whole wheel coming round again. So
Yeah.
you're doing a wonderful thing, and you're opening this completely different world to people. And when you're in a different world, it helps you to put your own in perspective.
Cheers.
Blimey, look at this. Stone me. Andy, I'd quite forgotten how enormous your shop is. You've got the lot in here, haven't you?
And yes, we have the dive section, going around to sailing clothing, general clothing for water sports, you know, wetsuits, dry suits.
What about internet sales, Andy? Is that creating a change in the way business happens here?
Oh, 100%. But
Yeah.
obviously we're not alone in that. You
No.
have to go with the times, but at the same time, you still need that personal knowledge. And for teaching people, at the minute, machines can't quite do that.
No, it's lovely that I can come in here and I'm seeing things that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like the
yeah.
diving gear. I can pick it up, I can hold it, and I can talk
Yes.
to somebody who
Yeah.
understands.
That still is vital. Yeah.
Andark's massive, Andy. It's a fantastic result.
Yes, but it's sort of organically grown. And like we were talking about earlier, it's 50 years now.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that.
Have you got a thing going on this year to sort of
Well, we
celebrate
had to,
the
didn't
50
we?
years?
Yes,
It's
yeah.
rude not to.
Yeah, we got a festival in June, the 26th, I think, to the 28th. And we're going to base it around, obviously, the shop, at the pool, and the lake where we've been. There'll be lots to see and do and take part in. And some of our very good suppliers are going to turn up. And so they'll be on hand to impart their knowledge.
A good day out for everybody. And
Well, hopefully, I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
I think you are. I'm sorry I shall be at sea, Andy, but that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go outside and see what's what.
Okay.
Andy, I think we're done. Thanks so much. Really enjoyed that.
So did I.
Okay. I'll see you next time. Cheers, mate.